Welcome back to No BS TS, episode 18. And in this one, we are going to take a look at conditional types, which is a way to actually use ternary logic within the type definition in TypeScript. It's really crazy. Let's go actually take a look at the TypeScript handbook first and look at what we're talking about. All right, so up here, we've got this animal, right? And in this case, dog extends that animal. So dog is a type of animal, right? And in this case, they're saying that example one is either a number or a string dependent on whether dog extends animal. Now we know it does. So in this case, that question mark, right, the ternary logic right here is saying that it's either a number or a string. So it's going to pick number in that case. Now it's going to take a regular expression type and compare it against animal. Regular expressions do not extend from animal, and therefore, given this conditional, it's going to choose string, and so the type in this case is going to be a type of string. So, all right, how do we use that? Well, I'm going to show off an example where we have a fetch function that goes to a Pokemon API, and if you give it a callback, then it's going to just give you a void back. If you don't give it a callback, then it's going to give you a promise back. So it's a nice little API, kind of digs back into callbacks as opposed to promises, whatever, fine. So here's our Pokemon API. Let's go take a look. Pretty simple stuff, pokeapi.co, and then you give it a limit of 10 Pokemon, and it gives you back a bunch of results, all of which are essentially just URLs, which is not a great API, but whatever. That's not really the point on this one. So let's go and build out our code. All right, I'm going to create a new file. It's going to be called conditionals. And the first thing I'm going to do is define an interface for the Pokemon results. And I'm just going to copy that in from another project. And that's in GitHub. You can just bring that into your own code. All right, and I also want to go and bring in node fetch. So I'm going to import fetch from node fetch. And of course, we have to go and install node fetch. So let's do that. Okay, but it's still giving us a problem here. So what is that problem? Well, it could not find the declaration file for node fetch. So this happens a lot, actually, in the community of NPM modules. We don't have any types for node fetch. Node fetch isn't exporting any types from it. So the way that we can get the types for that is we can go to a community written types for that particular package. And the way that we do that is we say yarn add, and then we do @types, and then node fetch, and that gives us the types for node fetch. So now we're good. TypeScript understands what the signature of the fetch function is, and we can use it with all the hinting and all the type safety that we've come to know and expect from TypeScript. Okay, so let's create our fetch Pokemon function. Now it's going to take that URL and optionally a callback. And so now let's define what that callback is. So we're going to say that T extends either undefined, or it's going to be a function that gets given a bunch of Pokemon. And itself returns just a void. Now, what is the result of this? So that's where our conditional logic comes in. So we're going to say that we have a fetch Pokemon result, and it too will be a generic. And we're going to say, well, does the type coming in, and that's the type of this callback over here, extend undefined, meaning that we didn't specify that callback. In that case, we want a promise with these Pokemon results. Otherwise, we're going to return a void. And now we'll go over here and we'll say that is the output type. And we need to bring in the type of the callback. Okay, so now let's go implement this. So I'm just going to do this in basically two different fetches. The first one is if it's a callback, then I want to fetch that URL, take the response back, get the JSON out of that, and then from there, call the callback. Otherwise, I'm going to return a fetch URL with that same JSON response. But it's not happy about this. So let's see why it's not happy about this. Well, it's not happy about this because, one, there's no return undefined on this. But even so, it's not assignable to that Pokemon result type that we created over here. So unfortunately, what I need to do at this point is just cast it. So I'm going to say as that and as that. That works just fine. Okay, so let's actually try this out and see if it really works. So fetch Pokemon, and we'll give it that URL that we saw before. And in this case, we'll just give it a callback. And then from there, we'll go through the results and print out each one of the names. Okay, so I was wrong. It's not an array of Pokemon. It's just the Pokemon results. Okay, perfect. Oh, that's looking better. Great. Okay, so let's give that a try. And then we'll do conditionals. Cool. And now I've got my top 10 Pokemon. So let's see if we can do the promise version of this. So in order to do that, we need an async function, because we're going to use a wait. And we'll invoke that. And then here, we'll just do the data equals the await of fetch Pokemon. And then with the data, output that. Okay, so what's the problem here? Well, in this case, it's telling us that this data could either be a void or Pokemon results. So we're going to coerce this to being a Pokemon results. We can do that one of two ways. We could go over here and cast that using as Pokemon results, and that's fine. Or we can use the generic syntax and move this to here and put it in the less than and greater than. And that actually is another version of type coercion. Let's give that a try and see how we do again. Looks good. Okay, I like it. But I don't really like the fact that the promise variant of this actually has to do this coercion. I think this is actually kind of messy. So what I'm going to do is actually reuse the functional overloading stuff that we saw way back in the start of the series and make this a cleaner API. So this is just, there are many ways to do things in TypeScript. I'm just showing you a bunch of different ways to do it. So we're going to create a new file here. We'll call it conditionals redone. And I'm going to take that code, paste it in here. I'm going to get rid of this. And then I'm going to have fetch Pokemon. No generic. And this is just going to be a function that takes data, Pokemon result, and returns a void. In this case, it's going to return a void. That's one variant of fetch Pokemon. The next variant of fetch Pokemon is going to just take the URL and instead return a promise, which has the Pokemon results in it, like so. And then we need the actual function that's going to do the work. So in this case, it's going to have that as an optional. And we're going to put unknown down here just because, there we go, fetch Pokemon result. Actually, this is just going to be Pokemon result, like so. Okay, and now we don't even need to cast it. There we go. Okay, so this is looking a lot cleaner, and that's because we're using, function overloading. So we've got two different valid API signatures. We've got this one, which is the fetch Pokemon that takes a URL and takes a callback. And then we've got the second variant of fetch Pokemon, which just takes a URL as a string and returns a promise to get you some Pokemon results. Okay, let's see how we can actually use that. Okay, so how does it look when we do this? No problem. And can we get rid of this coercion down here and have a nice clean API? Yes, we can. That looks great. Let's try out each variant of that. So we'll try out the callback version first. And that looks good. And then we'll try out the promise-based version. It'd be really nice when we get top level awaits and we don't have to do this stuff. And there you go. Great. Okay. So not only did you learn conditional typing right here with the ternary, which is just mind-blowingly cool, but you also learned that in this case, it might be actually better to even just go back to the functional overloading that we saw before in a previous video. Okay, coming up in episode 19, we're going to take a look at a couple more utility types before we get into actually using TypeScript in the wild as we take it into React apps, starting in episode 20. So exciting. All right, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you really like the video, hit the subscribe button, click on that bell, and you'll be notified the next time a new No BS TS video arrives.